Welcome back to the Bumper Breakfast. It's good to be here again with Mr. Tolani Ujuri. He's a disability inclusion advocate and one of the members of the cluster of persons or people with albinism. A couple of, say about 24 months ago, we were having a conversation, a training organized by an international media. And some of us were arguing and saying, is albinism a disability? And a lot of people just said, no, no, no. And the person with albinism there says, do you think I'm like you? I'm like, yes, no. Like, yes, no. Do you eat the same food with them? Yeah, you're like me now. But you do know that I have certain peculiarities that differentiates me from you, even though I am like you. More like, oh, we just used to know albinos, their eyes run everywhere. All albinos use glasses and all that and all. And the person said, because we have very serious. And I was like, really? So yes, a lot of people may be wondering this morning, why is Mr. Tolani Ujuri an albino, the one, a person with albinism, and you call him an albino on the street, actually he's a person with albinism, the one talking about disability. So Mr. Tolani, let's begin from that part. Where exactly?
The UN, there's a particular UN charter,
okay,
and the WHO considers persons with albinism as persons with disability.
Okay.
Basically, due to the low vision. Out of every 10 people with albinism,
okay,
9.5 has got.
There's no 0.5 human being anyway.
Yeah, as in just statistics wise.
Yeah, statistics wise.
Yeah, the percentage is like they've got low vision.
And does that start from the beginning of life or does it start later?
It starts right from the beginning of life.
Wow.
And that's why early intervention it's very key. Protect the child's eyes at a very, very early age. That's why you find out that parents who can afford it, the children with albinism start using glasses at a very, very, not even just glasses, photochromic lenses. Glasses that shades the eyes from the effects of the light.
Sun.
Yes. So so that's why low vision, number one, then the skin, the susceptibility of the skin to UV rays from the sun too. So that, I mean, those are the two challenges of persons with albinism, and that's why it's considered as a disability. Yes.
So basically, people just look at the eyes, and you know they consider that, or they look at people with visual impairment of all sorts.
In a lot of countries, persons with albinism are considered as legally blind.
So that's where it is, because most people don't even regard people who are visually impaired or blind. You know, until they're blind, they do not see them as persons with disabilities. They assume that because the person is not blind, he doesn't have a disability, he only has eye problem. That's what they call it. So, but basically, another cluster there is the visually impaired.
Yes.
Which means from little to serious to low.
You have different shades of it. You have some people who can see you with a pair of glasses, but who can't read at all. I've got friends like that. With the aid of very, very thick lenses, they can they have a level of visibility, but if they have to read, they have to use the braille to read. And you have some people whose vision field has really reduced to a very, very, I mean, to just if they don't turn, they don't see things at the other side. Yes. So I mean, so that kind of person can't drive. That kind of person might not even be able to cross the streets
properly
on his
safely.
or her own. So all this set of people are regarded as legally blind. But here we don't really pay so much attention to those things. Who regulates it? Who does the check? And all that. But in countries where they have serious regulations, they would definitely make sure that provisions are made for this set of people, and their legally classified in this category.
Okay, another thing I want us to talk about today, because now that we've established the fact that there are different classes of disability, and they're not just the blind, you have the deaf, mind you, people who cannot hear and who cannot speak, they're just the deaf, they're not deaf and dumb. There's no dumb, there's no human being that is dumb, except when you say somebody's dumb, it means the person is stupid or the person is an idiot. It's an abuse, it's an insult, it's not a class of disability. So person is either deaf, the blind, the visually impaired, you have the persons or people with albinism, you have there's no crippled, the people with physical the challenged people, or the people with physical or challenge. You have the people with mental disability, you have people with intellectual, they call it intellectual disability and all. So there are different classes of disability, but let's look at how we are fed as a people. Access to basic infrastructure. And I want to begin with just the simple attitude of the common Nigerian to you crossing the expressway, or not even the expressway. Let's even look at the normal road, intrastate road, not intra, within the state. Take Alausa to Ikeja, for example. There are so many elephant crossings. I don't want to call it
zebra crossing.
Zebra crossing. Elephant crossings that the moment people put their legs on it in a saner climb, you would stop no matter the speed that you were driving at. And moreover, you should even know that there is a zebra crossing there if you've driven down that road before. But then the pedestrian almost has to beg to be able to cross.
I think there's still so much of public enlightenment to be done. We can't just now just keep hammering on the blame game. Because, I mean, yes, enlightened people would assume that just put your legs on the, I mean, if you're on the zebra crossing, cars should stop. But it shocks you more when you find government vehicles, because you assume that anybody driving a government car, I'm going by the plate numbers, had gone through a level of training. They don't know, they don't care, they don't stop. You even find official convoys of government officials. They don't run over. They don't stop. And in their head, most times they assume that person crossing has got everything put together, so you see them coming. It's not everybody crossing the road that has it all put together. Some have got challenges with their air, some have got challenges with their vision, some have got challenges with their physical challenges that are not particularly visible. But so there's still so much of public enlightenment has to be done. Then the penalties for these things are so liberal. Maybe if you check the laws, 5,000, 10,000. That is even if you are caught and really dealt with it. So even if you go through the legal process, the penalties are so. But if the penalties are very, very stiff, people would learn. But the agencies involved, the the ministries involved, the Ministry of Transportation, in charge of our infrastructures, there's still a lot of advocacy, a lot of public enlightenment has to be done. In other clients, if you do those things on your license, they're going to deduct your points. If they deduct maybe 5 out of 5, then you lose that license. All those things don't happen here. So life goes on. Every day, people get knocked down on the express. People, even in broad daylight. Okay, express, the pedestrian bridge, you can cut them the slack. But on inner roads, people get knocked down and life just goes on.
So I'm just looking at it. That's just the road. If people get knocked down, what's now the place of the person with albinism, the person with low vision, the person who's blind, and trying to cross the expressway? A lot of people cannot even afford to buy the white cane. Now, for those who even have the white cane, they're trained enough to know this is where the pedestrian crossing is. This is where the zebra crossing is. So they get there and then they try to cross. And then one funny vehicle is speeding all the way and refusing to stop. You get into the average government building. In Lagos, for example, there is a ramp where you just get to the ground floor. And then we have an elevator, at least for the government secretariat. There is an elevator that takes you to whatever floor. Have you tried, apart from the hospitals as well? The hospitals also have the ramps, because usually they even use their wheelchairs and all that. I don't think that is built for persons with disability. I think that was just to make it seamless, you know, to move the beds in and out of the hospital.
Yes, well.
But then have you tried the banks?
Well, let me start from the blind and visually impaired, in which we fall under.
Yeah.
I have a lot. In fact, I'm a volunteer for the blind cluster. What is good for an average blind person? If you're on the road and you have to cross, just wait for a sighted person to take you across. That is the rule. It is. You don't assume that you're going to live by your ears and you want to. You just have to wait and ask for help. That is the unwritten rule. Even a sighted person, you have to look left, you have to look right, you have to look left again, look up and down.
Because of the attitude of Nigerian drivers.
Motorbikes are coming
from the opposite direction.
I mean, coming through.
And they've knocked quite a number of people down, killed people by taking the one way.
So for the blind, for the blind and visually impaired, just ask for help. Trying to prove the rights and whatever had not worked so far. We still have a lot of work to do on that end. In the area of accessibility, the Special People's Law made provision. The Special People's Law 2021 or 2022. 2011 made provision for that. Made provision for on vehicles. And
you're talking about Lagos law now.
For Lagos law now made provision. Section 1819. No, I think it's 1819-20 made provision parking space. Provision as in for every bus, every public transportation, 1 out of every 10 seats should be made available for persons with disability. The parking lots, 1 out of 20 parking lots should be assigned for persons with disability. You'll have seen the parking lots clearly marked with a sign. Most people know that sign, or like a person on a wheelchair. But what do you have? Just cross over into the state secretariat and count and just walk through the parking lots. Even out of 50, would you even find one? If you're a person with disability and a cab takes you to the government office to transact a business, would you even find a place to park? So it's like it begins with you. It begins with the government. So the government that wants to go out to enforce all these provisions
should start within.
They should first start within. Accessibility into government office. If they claim that there's lift or no lift or whatever it is, if there's no power supply, how do you get to where you are going? Have you tried going to our courts?
Our courts are
have you tried going to
courts, a different place?
Hospitals. And really, it breaks your heart when you find that they have to carry able-bodied men. The ramps, even I'm talking about, there's ramp. Those ramps, there's specifications to those ramps. Most of those ramps, persons on wheelchair can't use them. So they are just there just for the fun of it. Okay, after you even have access into the building, can you move around that building?
Because then, Chris, I know that one of the publishers in Abuja is physically challenged and uses a wheelchair. Yeah. Is a journalist. And we're having this conversation, and Chris said for him to access one of the government buildings, there was a ramp. He got downstairs, he was meant to see one of the directors. And because they asked him to use the stairs, the elevator was not working. They asked him to use the stairs, he couldn't use the stairs. So he put a call through to the man to say, I'm downstairs, but they asked me to use the stairs. I cannot use the stairs. The elevator is not working. Could you please come to the ground floor? and let's have a meeting there. The man refused. So after waiting a number of minutes, running into hours and trying to convince the man never moved, Chris decided to move away. He decided to leave the building. That business ended there. The question we had to ask him is, does this man know that you have that you're physically challenged? Does he know that you actually use a wheelchair? He said no. But then that would have been the perfect opportunity for the man to find out. But then the people in the building practically saw him as a beggar that was, disturbing their boss. So they were quick to shoo him, out of the building. The next time they were going to see, said he met the man at one event, and then he spoke to the man. He said, I was in the office, and then the man was like, oh, it was you? Oh, you should have told me. I said, but you never asked. I told you in clear terms that I cannot use the stairs, that I have to use either the elevator or you come down. You didn't ask the question, okay, why can't you use the stairs?
Use the stairs.
He said he had gone to another one like that where the people in the building, they had standby 2 men that were carrying people. I think this one was even a hospital, general hospital in Abuja or something. They carry people. Once you get there and you're going to the 2nd floor to go and do a test, said they will just whisk you and they will just
carry. They won't even give you. One thing I get to tell people when.
Is that also part of access? Is that
that's not part of access. That's not dignifying at all. It is not dignifying at all. If people think we're pushing it too much, I usually tell them, just wait and allow 2 men carry you and see what it is like. How much more if it's the opposite sex carrying you, and they carry you the way it's convenient for them, not the way it's convenient for you. And when we have these meetings and we tell them, the stakeholders, either the public or private sector, and it's like, we'll do something about it. And I try to remind them, it is not so much, okay, yes, I'm talking about myself, people in my community, in the disability community, but statistics have it that you have a 50% chance that you're going to fall into that group.
Before you end your life.
Yeah. 50% chance. So if it happens to you, if you are climbing your same step and you sprain your ankle or you have a dislocation, you're going to have the same challenge that we are having now to you. So it's nice to think like, they talk about, they now give the Bible and religious quotations to read that it won't happen, God forbid, and all that and all that. So that's why I usually start by, before we start talking, for you to know how I feel it or what I'm talking about, just think of you being blindfolded, you being strapped to a wheelchair, and try to make your way around your environment, not even where you don't know, around your environment, and see how convenient it is for you. If you find it that convenient, then you have done well. So these are the challenges we have, and it is so bad because it's heartbreaking. People who are going through it, not all of them have been able to voice it. Because if you go through that ordeal once, 2 times, 3 times, you just want to move on. You just want to go back home, or you just want to go back to your safe place and just go and get over it. But when, those of us that come out and keep talking about talk about these things. So it's like we need to come out more, make our voices heard, and these things happen to everybody. Even the stakeholders in the disability community experience these things. Experience these things, and I've witnessed times, just like you said, you had a meeting with the particular person on the top floor, and they had to carry some people upstairs. One particular person refused.
He said no.
And that meeting did not start. Yes. The bad part of it was...
the person was proving difficult.
Exactly, because it was people at the meeting that now said, well, at least he had registered his grievances. And the guy said, I would never be carried upstairs. Never, it won't happen. But eventually, people appealed to him and they allowed it. And in this particular office, that had been going on for a long time.
We're still talking about access to basic infrastructure. It's a conversation that we will continue to bring to the bear as we continue this advocacy to have every single person who is a Nigerian included access to all public buildings, to basic food, water, housing, access to public hospitals, public institutions, access to being able to use the banks freely and not having the, with dignity. Access with dignity is what persons with disability are asking for. And thank you so much, Olani, for joining me this morning to talk about this.
Wow, you're welcome.
All right, we'll be back again tomorrow morning. It's all about women, and of course, sports will be here as well. And when we talk sports, we usually bring you updates from across the world. Do have a beautiful day, people. My name is Tomisi Adebokola. Have a one.